people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois. Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AARP Illinois' special virtual event featuring a true living legend from Springfield, Illinois, Frank McNeil. I'm your host, Sonia Gibbons-Reed, State and Community Engagement Analyst. We are thrilled to have Mr. McNeil here with us today, but before we dive into our discussion, let's get to know a bit more about our remarkable guest. Mr. McNeil was the first African American to hold the position of Senate parliamentarian and has received the NAACP Political Action Award, the Illinois Community Action Association Award, and the Martin Luther King Public Service Award. Mr. McNeil was a radio host from 2007 to 2023. He has been on the board of directors at the Boys and Girls Club, the NAACP Executive Board, the Human Service Reform Task Force, the African American Family Commission, as well as the Springfield Community Federation. He has served the Springfield community and the state of Illinois for many years. We are honored to be having this discussion with Mr. McNeil. And so with that, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Well, good afternoon.
Thank you. In my introduction, I mentioned that you were the first African American to hold the position of Senate parliamentarian. Did you know that when you were first going into it? And did that make it feel more special, if you will? And for those in our listening and watching audience, could you please explain what a parliamentarian is and what they do?
Wow. Yes. I'm glad to do that, Sonia. And no, I didn't know. I was hired initially by Senate President Phil Rock back in 1982, 83. And I was hired on as a staffer for the Judiciary Committee. And as things went forward, one of the things, Senator Dick Durbin at the time was working on staff as well. And he was the actual parliamentarian, but, you know, he did one of those things. He went out and got elected to Congress. And so I was left there as the parliamentarian. So the role of the parliamentarian is to enforce the Senate rules of operation. There's Senate rules for both sides that the rules of operation apply to the members of the Senate. And the parliamentarian's job is to assure that the Senate follows the rules of operation. And there are what they call challenges of the chair. And you make the distinction whether the chair is made an appropriate ruling or not. And when there's an issue that falls outside the rules of Senate rules of procedure, you revert back to the Robert Rules of Order. So I did that, sort of, as they say, fell into that situation, but it became something that I became adept at and enjoyed. It was highly contentious because at that time, I think it was a majority of 30 Democrats and 29 Republicans. So every vote counted and every issue was right on the edge. So it was quite a trying time, but an enjoyable time, but a time where things were, how should I say, highly contentious.
I got the message. Okay. You successfully challenged the constitutionality of the commission form in McNeil versus City of Springfield. Could you explain more about what that was about?
Yes. Let me give honor to my two co-plaintiffs, William Washington and Rudy Davenport, were the initial plaintiffs in this case. And Howard Veal, Archie Lawrence, and Alan Woodson came on later as plaintiffs as well. The case of McNeil versus the City of Springfield was a voting rights case, Section 2 and of the Voting Rights Act. And what our contention was that the commission form of government discriminated against African American members of the community because it diluted the voting strength of African Americans. And we felt that by drawing districts and creating districts versus a one-man dilution process, that is, you got to vote for every commissioner. And when you had the African Americans, if they voted for the commission of their choice, they will always be outvoted because they were diluted by the mass of voters. So by drawing districts in 10 wards, as we now have, the African American community and other communities, by the way, had an opportunity to elect representatives of their neighborhood and of their choice. And if they didn't elect, they would have a significant impact on the election of whoever was representing that area of the city. One of the things we found, during the course of the lawsuit was that not only was the east side not represented, but the north and the southeast side of Springfield, because at the time of the lawsuit, which was 1985, all of the commissioners lived practically in, if we say, one ward now. And so that was the representation that we had. And we successfully challenged that judge, and I would go back and get his name, but he was a very good judge. He was aware of the impact, and it had historical impact all over the country. And we were successful, and I just cannot call his name for whatever reason right now, but we'll get back to that.
Okay. So reflecting on your experiences here in Springfield, how have you seen the community change and what challenges have you witnessed? I think you just mentioned one of them.
Well, it's changed significantly, but it still has a lot of miles to go, if you want to say. When I came to Springfield, the only elected African Americans were on the county board at the time. And by the way, I must admit that I did serve 2 terms on the county board, which was not in my opening, but I did serve. I was elected to the county board twice and served on there until I took the position on city council. And so the impact, no representatives on the park board, no representatives on the school board, no representatives on the SMEA board. And part of the change that we were able to affect was getting representatives on all of those bodies now, and having some input and some ability to affect change.
Great. Looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of African Americans in Springfield, and what role do you see the community playing in shaping that future?
Well, I think looking forward, if we can say it that way, we're going to have to be vigilant. We're going to have to continue to stand, and we're going to have to continue to organize. And we're going to have to get out of some of our, with the victories we've had, there has come some complacency. And I think we need to get out of the complacency. We still, as I continue to say to a lot of my friends, the struggle continues. It's not over. And so we have to continue to be vigilant, to go out, register people to vote, work to get people out to vote, because it's the impact of voting that's made the difference in where we are today.
Right. Given the current social and political climate, what do you believe are the most pressing issues that need urgent attention in Springfield and the state of Illinois?
Again,
being vigilant. Yes.
We have to continue to keep our eyes on the prize, as we say, that while, as you can see, most people can see, there's an assault on the gains of the civil rights movement for the last 50 years. They're trying to roll back. They have rolled back Roe versus Wade. They've rolled back the affirmative action. They've rolled back the voting rights. And so we have to go out and rekindle, refight, and start again, because we can get these things back in place, but we have to elect a Senate and House and a president that favors these kinds of things versus those who would like to see them turned away.
Right.
So the idea is that voting has never been more important than it is today.
You are right about that. Based on the well-rounded life experiences you have, with you having your Juris Doctorate, your own consulting business, and you have numerous awards like the NAACP Political Action Award, the Webster Plaque, the Illinois Community Action Association Award, and the Martin Luther King Public Service Award, to name a few. You were a radio host, as we've mentioned, from 2007 to 2023. What kind of radio show did you host, and what did you enjoy about it the most?
Well, the radio hosting let me explain. Let me go back to 2007. I'd been on the city council for basically 20 years. And for 20 years, I would get off work and I either went to a city council meeting or a committee meeting. And so 2007, I was term limited out. And all of a sudden, I had to come home, and so I just wasn't ready to take a seat. And so I reached out to Jim Leach, who was at the time program director for WMAY, and said, "There is a lack of diversity on your radio station. I listen to it every day. And I believe I can add something to your radio station, and I can bring a different perspective to your radio station." And that's how I got started in the radio world. And as a result of that, I think I had some significant impact, because some of my listeners would call and say, "I never looked at things this way, but I don't agree with you on just about anything, but this one I do agree with you." So it gave me a platform. And it gave primarily the African-American community an opportunity to be heard, because I did try to host a lot of the local things, but I also addressed international, national, and local issues. And most of the time it was from a different perspective than the common perspective that was on the radio.
That sounds awesome. Just being a voice and putting it out there for others to join in on it.
Right.
Right.
Well, that was the good part about it, was that I didn't look for anybody to say, "Oh, everything you do is great. If you do it and you do it from the perspective of what you feel is the right thing to do, you're going to have some people who say, no, I don't agree with you. But that's the good thing about America. You have a right to dissent. And I think that right to dissent is being challenged again.
Right. Agree to disagree. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay. As a community leader, what advice do you have for individuals seeking success, particularly young African Americans?
Well, one, I think that the assault on education that I see on the history and understanding your history and understanding why we have HBCUs today, historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, which I graduated from one. And the fact is that the history of HBCUs is because you were denied the opportunity to enter the predominantly white institutions. You were discriminated against. You were not allowed. And it was state and local sanctioned segregation. And these HBCUs grew out of the fact that to educate African Americans, but also I think that high schools have to do more with civics, because I think there is a general basic lack of understanding of how government works. And I think that you don't have to have a college degree to understand how government functions. And I think our young people have to become educated about government and how government affects your life. And I tell people, from the time that you are born until you die, there's a government action, because you have to have a birth certificate and a death certificate. So from the time you're born to the time you die, government plays a role in your life, and you need to get to know and how it impacts your life on a day-to-day basis.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. People don't understand, and education is key.
Yes.
How can individuals, regardless of their background, ethnicity, or gender, contribute to creating a more equitable and just society?
Well, here again, it's about history. No one created this history to slant it one way or the other. It was history because people acted and reacted and to what the changing times were. We didn't create Jim Crow. It was created to keep people in a disadvantaged position. And the civil rights movement came about to change those kind of things. So if you're going to be active and be engaged, you got to understand the history of why we're here and why we're at the point we are today, and why there are people who are pushing back saying, oh, we don't need to do this anymore. Well, yes, we do, because with as much as we've changed, a lot has stayed the same. And unfortunately, attitudes are going backwards as well. People who had an open mind are beginning to take the position that, well, we don't have to do this anymore. And I think diversity is good for the country. And I think we're becoming an international society, as you know. So the more you know about other people and how to interact with other people, the better it's going to be.
Okay. In your experience, how do you navigate challenges and resistance when advocating for change? And what advice do you have for those facing similar obstacles?
Oh, man. Well, the first thing is that you got to understand the issues. Make sure you understand the issue and what the legal ramifications around the issue are, so that you can address the issue. There are rules, again, there are rules that sometimes dictate how you advocate. And so you have to understand those as well. But then when you understand the rules and understand how you're going to advocate, then you got to have the tenacity, the drive, and the courage to move forward. A lot of people don't understand that it's a lonely feeling out there sometimes when you're advocating and you're standing at the microphone by yourself, and you got a group of people who basically, some of them don't agree with you, and you're saying, hey, we don't need to do it this way. We need to turn this in a different direction. So you got to have the courage. You got to have the tenacity, and you got to also make some sacrifices. And a lot of people don't understand that being in the political realm means that you're going to make some sacrifices one way or the other.
Right. Well, speaking about that, with your tenure at the Capitol, what accomplishments are you most proud of in terms of advancing equity and justice here in Springfield?
Well, two things, of course, the Voting Rights Act with the city of Springfield. But I think another major accomplishment was legislation that I worked on with former U.S. Senator Carol Mosley Braun, former State Representative Paul Williams, former State Representative Anthony Young, and that was called creating judicial subdistricts. And in Chicago, of course, they didn't have subdistricts or wards or broken down by districts. In Chicago in I think it was around 88 or 89, when we embarked on this legislation, there were like 22 African-American judges. And we passed legislation that created basically wards for judges. And we were successful in getting the legislation passed and signed by the governor. And as a result of that, we now have, it was 22 at the time, now we have over, I think it's over 200 African-American, Hispanic, and women judges in the Chicago and Cook County area. So that was a major accomplishment. And I don't think, a lot of people don't even know that I was even engaged and involved in that, but that's a good thing. I didn't do what I did for acknowledgement, but I did it because it was the thing that needed to be done.
Right. Yes. You're very passionate and you're very accomplished, and I'm honored to be speaking to you today. In your opinion, what is the significance of community involvement in addressing systemic issues and promoting positive change?
Community involvement is the backbone, is the lifeline of changing things, because you've got to, first, someone has to have the idea that there is a deficiency, and then you have to rally support and get people engaged. And then you have to, the sacrifice comes in of the things that have to be done, the making the meetings, the going to the rally and rallying people, knocking on doors and creating organizations to support you to get where you need to be. And so that's what I see is community engagement is just purely sacrifice and hard work, and again, being tenacious. Just can't give up.
Huge commitment.
Yes.
To the cause.
Huge.
Yes. Yes. For individuals who are inspired to make a difference, but maybe they feel overwhelmed or they don't even know where to start, what practical steps can they take to initiate positive change in their community?
First, they got to identify the issue that they want to change. Once they identify the issue, then they begin to educate themselves on that issue, educate themselves on how did it become to be this way, and what do you propose to do to make it better, or how to change it. And once you sort of get those parameters set up, then you can go out and organize around that, saying, this is why I want to do what I want to do. And this is going to be the end result of the impact it's going to have on the community. And I think that it may sound simple, but it's a lot more engaging, a lot more work. But I think that first and foremost, you got to educate yourselves about the issue. You got to then go out and as they say, do the plowing of the yard to get the people and to plant the seeds of understanding And then you have to grow those people to understand that they can be a part of what you're doing. And it's not just about you, but it's about the collective group.
All right. And for someone aspiring to be a catalyst for change in their community, what are some key qualities or skills that you believe are essential for effective leadership?
Oh, man. Well, and and let me say this, having a formal education is good, but it's not necessary. If you can read, and now you have the computer, you can do a lot of the research that I didn't have available to me at the time.
Right.
You can go to the computer and get a lot of research. So it's more about educating yourself and then being diligent and then organizing the community and the people around the issue. And then you may have to fundraise, you may have to do other things. But okay, well, as I said, you can go on your computer and most people have access. If nothing more, you can go to the library and get a computer or get actual books on community organizing. So it is how much you want to put into it is really the question. How important is the issue to you? How much of your self-worth are you going to put into it? And getting the support from your community, I think is the other part of it. Is you got to sell this. You got to be a salesman. You got to sell your position to people and get them to be engaged. Because once you get a good organization going, they seem to have some of the similar concerns that you have, because if they stay attached to issues, they will see what you're doing, and it becomes a little easier when you have sort of like a built-in support group to help you out get these things done.
Right. So would you say that having a really big passion about something and is the first step, right?
Right.
To identify
you have to be passionate. I mean,
right.
You don't do these things if you don't have the real compassion and passion to get them done.
To make change.
Yes, change is difficult. And if anybody tells you change is not difficult, people like things the way they used to be.
Right.
And this is how I grew up. This is the way it's been all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to change things. Trust me, I heard that many times.
I'm sure.
so I do understand that change is difficult, but once you get people to recognize that change is good for them and change is better for the community, then you have a good thing going.
Right. Okay. Well, as we wrap up our conversation, what message or call to action would you like to leave with our audience regarding the future of Springfield, particularly for African Americans?
I think we have a bright future. We have some young people who are getting engaged, and I think they need to do more in their own community. I should say that the older people understand how the process is. We have to educate our younger people about the role that they can play in making a difference and the role that they are going to be asked to take, because once they turn 18, they become what we call a player. You can vote, and your vote does count. And my good friend and nephew, Sean Gregory, can tell you one vote made the difference in him having a seat on city council or not being on city council. So every vote counts. And so we have to educate our younger people that they need to get engaged and become involved at the 18-year-old. And it's a lifelong thing. You don't stop. It keeps going. And you have to continue to educate yourself on the issues each year.
Agreed. Very, very important information. So thank you, Mr. McNeil, for sharing your insights and experiences. We appreciate your time and the valuable contributions you continue to make to the Springfield community and to Illinois. And to our audience, I thank you for joining us for this enlightening conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change lies within each one of us.
Yeah,
Let's continue the dialogue and work together for a more equitable and just future. Once again, thank you all for joining AARP Illinois today. We look forward to continuing our mission of supporting seniors, caregivers, and the entire aging community in Illinois. If you would like more information on AARP's upcoming virtual events, please visit aarp.org/Illinois. Have a wonderful day, and this concludes today's virtual event.